The small glass bottle says it's 99% pure, but the testing lab measured only 7.7%. That big gap is not a tiny mistake. It's what independent consumer audits keep finding in unverified peptide samples bought online. Forensic chemists found dangerous metals like arsenic and lead in size C's bottles back in 2018. A newer study from 2024 found hidden bacteria germs in every single test sample of a popular weight loss drug. 7 different brands fit into 3 bad patterns. These problems range from weak doses to heavy metal pollution. Only 2 checking methods pass the test that the rest fail. The only way to verify hardware output is to look closely at the lab receipt. People buy these chemical compounds online for the same simple reason they read vitamin labels. They assume the powder inside the glass bottle matches the name printed on the outside. They trust that the paperwork, called a certificate of analysis, proves it's safe. Shady online sellers count on both of these assumptions. Their websites list the chemical name spelled out correctly. The product pages claim the items are for research use only and not for human consumption. A paperwork printout shows a 99% purity score with a fake lab logo at the top. It looks like a real science report because it was built to fool buyers. That fake paperwork costs almost nothing to make. It has helped grow a massive market that now imports over $328 million worth of unverified peptides from China alone. Online ads for these items are up 678% since 2022. The top 30 illegal web stores pulled in more than 4.7 million visits in just 1 quarter last year. Buyers are not just being careless. They trust a setup made to look scientific. But looking like science and running real consumer spec sheet audits are 2 completely different things. That gap is where the bad companies make their money. That clever marketing worked fine until real chemists opened up the bottles. Forensic experts in Belgium took 10 of the most common fake peptide drugs from 3 illegal web stores. They tested them for active ingredients, heavy metals, leftover chemical solvents, and other hidden impurities. The team published their work in a science journal called Talanta. The researchers did not just pick the worst stores on purpose. They tested 10 common products found all over the market. The lab numbers were shocking. The purity levels for certain peptide types ranged from just 5% to 75%. That means some bottles held only a tiny fraction of the chemical dose promised on the label. 26% of the test samples contained arsenic or lead above safe health limits. 1 sample had lead at 10 times the maximum safety limit allowed for injectable substances. Every single sample contained leftover industrial solvent from the factory process. The arsenic found inside was the most dangerous toxic type. These were not just random bad batches. They were total manufacturing failures. By 2024, the exact same pattern showed up on a totally different continent. Researchers from the University of Pex and UC San Diego finished a peer-reviewed study for a medical internet research journal. They looked at 1,080 search links for popular diet drugs and found that over 42% led users to 59 illegal online shops. They bought test samples from 6 of the most popular stores. The actual purity in those bottles measured between 7.7 and 14%. Every single label had promised 99% purity. The tests also found hidden bacteria toxins in all the samples. Checking the packaging showed that over half broke basic safety rules. 3 orders for pre-filled brand-name pens never even showed up in the mail. Getting ripped off and getting nothing is part of how these shady websites operate. Federal regulators have noticed these problems. Warning letters sent out from the government about peptide products jumped from about 14 in 2024 to 43 in 2026. One online store got a warning letter on March 31, 2026, for selling experimental compounds with marketing claims about weight management while pretending they were only for research. In July of 2026, a federal judge sent a peptide company owner to prison for nearly 6 years for selling products mixed with illegal steroids. This tier is not just a minor slip in quality. It is active contamination and plain fraud. Heavy metal pollution is not the only major issue. Sometimes the chemical inside the bottle is real, but the actual amount is way too low. It doesn't match the label claim or the proper scientific benchmark. This is where most of the illegal online volume sits. An independent testing group called FINRIC publishes safety rankings based on samples sent in by customers. By August 2026, they had published over 9,000 lab tests across 1,600 vendors. They use advanced equipment like high-performance liquid chromatography to check every single batch. Their data for a popular repair peptide shows 103 vendors tested over 700 samples. The highest-rated vendor scored 77% purity. The lowest score dropped to 63%. For another common compound, 54 vendors were tested. The top score reached only 49%, while the lowest dropped to 38%. These are failing grades when compared to real pharmaceutical standards. The gap between what is printed on the label and what the lab measures decides if the user gets the correct output. Real scientific studies used exact, clean doses in proper sterile rooms. When an online bottle contains low purity and unknown filler amounts, the buyer is not getting the trial parameters. They're just getting an empty association with real science. Now we reach the absolute worst category. These bottles contain almost none of the listed compound. Buyers pay good money for a specific peptide and get something completely different. The 2024 study showed that multiple orders for pre-filled pens from illegal online shops were total scams. Money left the buyer's bank account, but the product never arrived. For the bottles that do show up, some tests found purity levels dropping down to 5%, meaning they basically did nothing at all. Government warning letters pointed out that shady firms often sell clear, sterile water alongside the peptides. This proves they expect people to inject the items, even while printing disclaimers saying the items are not for human use. The agency notes that injecting unverified liquids straight into the body bypasses natural defense barriers against germs and toxins. When the real active ingredient is totally missing, buyers are just pumping unknown chemical solvents into their bodies. Scams and empty bottles are the predictable end of an unregulated supply chain. Those three bad tiers cover most of the gray market. Two better verification frameworks sit completely outside them. The first is independent third-party testing with public batch results. FINRIC runs this exact model. Customers mail in bottles, the lab runs high-tech chemistry scans, and they publish the vendor scores for everyone to see. They test what actually arrives in the mail, making their data much more trustworthy than a seller's in-house printout. The key things to check are the independent lab name, the clear lot number, and multi-batch consumer audits. The second framework is a licensed compounding facility operating under strict federal rules. Government updates in 2026 adjusted how certain peptide compounds are handled under official pharmacy laws. This does not make illegal online sellers legitimate. It means that properly licensed facilities with real prescriptions follow strict state and federal oversight, sterile room rules, and purity checks. The difference is very clear. Gray market sellers ship directly to consumers with zero prescriptions and fake paperwork. Licensed compounders answer to pharmacy boards and high safety standards. A truly verified lab report requires 3 simple checks. The testing lab must be totally independent, the lot number must match the bottle, and the test date must be under 12 months old. If those conditions are missing, you do not have hardware output verification. You only have marketing copy. Federal agencies are increasing warning letters, and for a very good reason. Always demand the lab receipt before evaluating any vendor. To access the complete audits, raw test logs, and verified database tracking every batch we tested, go to rawvalence.com/access.